One, two.
Hey everyone, this is Aran. Fairy tales are everywhere in the world. No matter where people are from, they all grew up with some kind of fairy tales. So for this video, I interviewed 4 of my friends who are actually from 4 different continents. So, who are going to be these 4 lucky people that are gonna be in this awesome video of mine?
My name is Minh Phạm. I'm a sophomore from
So
Vietnam.
I'm Dushyant and I'm on Sweetmate. So basically I live in Tanzania, but my culture has been largely Indian.
My name is Nino and I'm from the Republic of Georgia, which is the country and not the
I'm
state.
Raul. I'm from El Salvador.
Where's El Salvador?
El Salvador is in Central America. It's in Central America.
So I interviewed each of the 4 friends and asked each of them one typical fairy tale from their own country.
Once upon a time,
It starts off where there's a man.
once upon a time,
He's really strong and he can say poetry pretty well.
her mom died when she was really small.
I mean, basically in Indian culture,
There's a girl named Bam.
They were all really interesting, but sadly I can only put 2 of them on this video because the other 2 stories were way too long. Are you guys ready? Let's get started and check out the first fairy tale from Georgia.
So, once upon a time, there was a king who had the weirdest wishes and imagination ever. So one day, he asked one of his people to bring him the sweetest thing he could ever find on the world. So all his men, they went and brought him the tongue, the animal tongue. They cooked it and served it. Well, the king tried it and said it was magnificent. Now he asked for something that is the most bitter thing in the world. So their men, they went and also bought a tongue, cooked it and served it. The king ate it and he liked it, although he could not understand why last time it was a tongue and this time it was a tongue again. He asked, okay, why did you do that? I asked you for the sweetest thing in the world and you brought me the tongue. I asked you for the most bitter thing in the world and you brought me the tongue. So what's the deal? So one of the men answers that there is no such thing in the world that could be more bitter or sweeter than the human tongue. The language and the tongue, these words are interchangeable in Georgia. The human language can be the sweetest thing as well as the most bitter thing. Usual fairy tales, they include a lot of superficial heroes, and the main hero, usually the one that saves the day, is usually a commoner or the very poor person who is really smart at the same time. I would say that they really have a lot of similarities, including the characters that are the commoners.
The setup, like the background,
Yeah,
king.
but the thing is, we don't have a lot of fairies or magicians, like very rarely. So most of the fairy tales are based on the real life type situation. But although we also have like giants and monsters, dragons.
Now you'll probably know what Georgian fairy tales are like. Next time when someone needs something sweet, just go ahead and serve them some animal tongues. Trust me, they taste amazing. Now I'm gonna interview a Latino friend.
There was this woman called Siwawet. Her dad was this god from the Indians. So she decided to get married, right? She got married with this other man. Siwawet got married with this other man, and she cheated on her.
She cheated on her husband.
Yeah, on her husband. Her dad got really mad, so this guy like kicked her out of the town. He now lives in like mountains and rivers. So
Really
sometimes-
far away from the.
Yeah, really far away from
town.
town. Yeah, the beginning appears like really beautiful and stuff. Then she becomes this like horrible like mummy, or like just really bad, yeah, like ghost. Siwawet, her name was changed to Siwana. And the men like end up being like really shocked and like just like horrified. So basically the moral of the story is that...
That's it?
Yes,
That's
that's
the
it.
story?
Dude, that's it. Yeah. So the moral to the story is that like men should be
Girls.
faithful to their wives, and they should not. Yeah, men.
Okay.
And that they shouldn't go to like looking for other women, no matter how beautiful they are. They should just be faithful to their wives, because that's why like she becomes this horrible ghost, because they're not faithful to their women, to their wives.
Oh, I thought she cheated on her
Yeah,
husband.
but then now she is now the punishment for other men who cheat on their wives.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's kind of deep, isn't it?
it is, dude.
Is it?
Salvadoran stuff.
My question was like, how did you feel as a child to like
So here's that story.
know the story? Apparently, this is not like for children.
I mean, you don't really pay attention. I mean, you just hear it and you're like, oh, okay. You know.
So after each of them told me an interesting slash funny slash weird fairy tale from their own country, I also asked them whether or not they thought they were more influenced by their local cultural fairy tales or by the more well-known Western fairy tales.
I probably grew up in a pretty Americanized society, so even though I still lived in El Salvador, and so probably more like I wasn't really like influenced by those kind of stuff.
So basically, I grew up with like both like story, like the Cream story, the Cream brother story, or Anderson.
I would say a little bit of everything because my parents, my grandparents, they like to read like Anderson's stories or like, you know, we had a lot of books that included like the collection of all of them at the same time.
It's more my parents and like my teacher like both like told me about their story, and then when I grew up, I started to buy books about like the fairy tales from both sources.
I would say a bit of both, but more so with the Western ones because we learned the Western ones in school.
Have the same influence on me. I don't see like the difference between them because like the moral lesson drawn from them like are the same. Like all like teach their children like how to behave in life.
At the same time, I was also reading
Georgian
fairy tales, maybe Russian, some, you know, European. So
If like you talk about like the local thing, it's easier to relate.
to relate to your
Yeah.
culture, to
Yeah,
your
so
life.
maybe it's easier.
Because I think they're more easier to relate to.
So it's obvious that people in different places in the world right now still have fairy tales that represent their own cultures. But as the world is going through a process of globalization, it's going to be harder and harder for the fairy tales to exist individually. Rather, they will merge into each other and become different versions of one main fairy tale. So let's just wait for another 100 years and see what happens, if we're still alive at that time and if we're still interested in different fairy tales. Do it. No, do it again.
Stop.
It's okay, it's okay.
No, stop that, stop it.